a good way to handle that problem. Alright, we got quali starting here in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and start the stream. Just 1 second here. That the rest of the way up. Close that mixer. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another weekend here with us at Apollo Racing Club. After a week-long hiatus, the drivers are back on the track and getting their cars ready to go for the race tonight. As always, my name is Matt McAdams. I'll be bringing you the action here from the commentator's booth. And tonight, we actually have a special treat. We have somebody joining me here in the commentator's booth. It's going to be Mr. Tom Castellani. Go ahead and say something to the folks watching here at home.
Hey, great to be back, and yeah, looking forward to this race at Oulton. Nice British track.
British track with a lot of history that we'll be getting to when we have some dull moments. I actually prepared this week and have some fun facts about this track. Actually, very interesting history to this track, but we will get to that later tonight. Right now, we are starting qualifying here. For anybody who doesn't know, this is going to be a single make season here at Apollo Racing Club, so they're all going to be in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Evo 2s, which are quite the beast to try and handle here at Oulton Park, is what the drivers are saying. Having been here in the Cup car on Thursday night, I can guarantee that it is going to be very, very interesting, but at least these drivers will have the advantage of having some traction control. That's something the Cup car does not have, and man, it would have been nice to have it. But let's go ahead and take a look over at the track. We got Tim Wilkins on camera right now, getting out on the track, warming up those tires. Going to be a little bit until we start to see some real lap times get put down, but it should be a very competitive grid here tonight. Based on the practice times we were seeing, a lot of the drivers very similar in pace, so we should have an exciting race on our hands. Looks like the number 117 car of Shu Chen is going to be the first one to start their hot lap after they get around these last couple of corners. And then we will be on to our qualifying session. Two corners to go here. And Shu is on the first hot qualifying lap here at Oulton Park. Take a little sip of my coffee there. Let's get my other computer queued up and ready to go. Just realized it's not. That would have been fun. Let's get that queued up. There we go. Just have that onboard camera ready to go.
Moose, do you know what sort of lap times we're looking for in these cars, or?
Yeah, so
we yet to find out?
We have yet to see what the actual qualifying pace of these drivers is going to be. During practice, we were seeing a lot of 1-minute 37s being set by the faster drivers, ranging down to about 1:39 to round out the whole field. Not a lot of variation there in pace, which is good at a short track like Oulton, because it means these cars are going to be pretty close to one another, which does lead to exciting racing for all of us to watch. So we're hoping that those paces stay consistent for all of these drivers. We might have a reasonable shot at getting to watch some exciting heads-up racing here at Apollo Racing Club. But right now, lap time for Shu Chen still looking pretty good. Looking at the speed traps, good speeds around some of these corners. We're going to be watching those minimum corner speeds as we get on through the race. But we'll have our first lap time here from Shu any second now. Just 2 corners to go. Really using all the track there, keeping the tires inside the white line, though, keeping that lap valid, going across the line with a 1:36.0, slightly faster than their pace during practice. I'm sure they're going to be happy about that. Second place going to be held by Andrew Warden. one of the old guard here at Apollo Racing Club, making an appearance. Had a Saturday off. Happy to have him in the I'm a Watermelon Lamborghini. Just a couple of tenths off of the current podium position, but 3/10 in the Delta right now. Only needs to make that 4 by the end of the lap in order to snag fastest lap from Shu. We'll see if he's able to pull it off. And then for the rest of the field right now, we've got Andre Lloyd with a 138.237, as well as Ricky Scott with a 138.865. The rest of the field still has yet to set valid laps. You done a lot of driving here at Oulton Park, Thomas?
Done a couple of races. It's a track that I find pretty tricky, to be honest. Certainly I think turn 2. Turn 1 is the right-hander, I think, and turn 2 is kind of difficult to get the braking, and it's easy to get sucked in onto the grass and basically end your race in a wall. So, been there, done that.
Yeah, same here. And one thing to mention, this is a very, very bumpy track. So actually, I've got the onboard for Andrew Warden here, and we're going to watch once he gets around this lap. So we're not going to have a whole lot to look at here for just a second. Actually, it looks like he has stopped his lap, and he's going to let somebody get around him. Wonder what was up with that, but he's going to take another shot at the lap here. Probably didn't see the pace he wanted to, so we're going to get to watch him unleash the taps here. Jeff Spangler comes across the line with a 135.79 to be the new fastest lap. We'll see what Andrew Warden does with this lap. Let's go ahead and throw up the picture-in-picture so we can see what he's seeing from inside the car. You can see just how bumpy and unsettled this Lamborghini is coming around some of these corners. This is turn 2 that Tom was talking about. Tricky braking marker. We can watch the car keep bouncing around the track as he's trying to slow it down enough to get around the corner, now down the straight. And then coming around this next corner, I've been hitting them with the speed trap. They're coming down this straight at almost 140 miles an hour and are rounding the corner at 120, only to get hard onto the brakes here to come into this hairpin. And you see just how fast that all happens. Drivers practically have no time to react. Right now, Andrew Warden, 0.25 up in the Delta, not fast enough for first place anymore now that Jeff Spangler has put down that crazy lap time. But maybe enough for him to snag second place. We'll see what he does. Down into the next chicane. We have the full stop chicane. Correct. Try to be more prepared this week. Hillsop, that's what it is. Up around Clay Hill into Druids.
This one's the only track where the Druids, is it?
It is not. Druids, there's also a corner at Brands Hatch of Druids, if I remember correctly.
It's, the British tracks like to keep you on your toes.
That they do, and all the corners are named. They're not numbered, so you got to work that much harder to try and remember everything. Andrew Warden is going to cross with an improvement there. Not enough to gain him a position, but does improve on the lap time. Let's take a look over at Mellon Pitch here. Currently 8/10 up in the Delta. If I can get over to him in time. Here we are in one of the Apollo Racing Club mod liveries. Looking suspiciously like a watermelon, similar to Andrew Warden's livery.
Mellon always has nice and bright liveries, and those green wheels always set it off real nice.
Yeah, vivid indeed. I don't want to call it an eyesore because I do appreciate the artwork, but man, it is a lot. Mellon Pitch just crossed the line with a half-second improvement, moving him up into second place. A finish I'm sure he will be happy with, but has more than enough time to get out there and improve on. We'll see what he does with it. Let's take a look over at Brandon Menzel. 6/10 in the Delta now. Coming up and around, what is that, turn, well, let's see, the track map says it's turn 3, but that's not turn 3.
And we haven't seen Andrew Warden for a little while, but it doesn't show. He's still got the pace.
Yeah, he is. He's currently in the pits. Not sure what he's doing in there right at this moment, but that is where he's at. Might be tuning his setup. Brandon Mansell gets a little bit loose coming around that first chicane. It's going to spin the car. Just overcooks it a little bit and back to the pits. Start another lap. Let's take a look at Tim Wilkins coming around that same chicane. Now down into Hillsop's chicane. 2 chicanes back to back. Keep the drivers on their toes. Got to really focus in the second sector of the track. A lot of patience, a lot of lifting off and just letting the car coast around corners is a good test to see if the driver is comfortable with coasting the car, which you never know. Sometimes might be a recipe for oversteer depending on how you set up the corner, but Tim Wilkins doing a good job still. 7/10 in the Delta. Let's see if we can get a little bit of that back coming around the exit here. Looks like he got a little unsettled and had to lift a bit. Now up into second to last corner here. Down the hill and then back right up the hill to get to the start-finish line. Let's see what he finishes with. Now 7/10, still improving. He does gain a position there, crosses the line with a 139.2. Another half second to improve by another position. Right now, Krieg's on quite the lap here. Currently a second up in the Delta. Actually, a little more than that, a second and a 10th.
I was just about to say, I'm looking and he's still on about a lap at the moment. So if he's only got one more turn to get through before the kink on the straight, and car has picked up some polystyrene there, but
still improving on that lap time. This is going to be a mega improvement. It's going to be 8th place up into 5th with a 136.64. Let's see who else is on track on an improvement. Paul Valenstein. One of my co-commentators here. Haven't gotten him in the booth in a little while because he's busy driving, putting on a show for us here in the number 920 Lamborghini here, rocking the blue and purple livery, which I am a massive fan of. That's one of the in-game liveries, but he does post that improvement of 1.2 seconds to move him up into 12th place with a 139.0. Let's take a look at Andre Alfonso here. How's chat doing? We got a little bit of time to talk before the race starts, and I can't focus on anything else. How's everybody's Saturday going? It's been a decent weekend here out in the Pacific Northwest, getting some much-needed rain, but still nice and warm, so it's easy to get out and go do things.
As getting rain on the East Coast here as well. I wouldn't say East Coast, but central Canada, where I'm just an hour away from Montreal, and as anyone who might have watched some of the Formula One today will have noticed, a bit damp.
A little wet.
Without spoiling anything.
Definitely a qualifying that everybody needs to watch if you watch F1. What's rain? Rain is what happens whenever Melon Pitch is in charge of deciding the weather for a league. Craig Bray on another lap here. Up in the Delta again, so is Andrew Warden. Will be keeping an eye on him. Just a 10th, but it is enough. I believe it will be enough for a position. No, we need 4 tenths out of Krieg's to get 4th place from Warden if he doesn't improve. And Warden needs 2 tenths in order to get 3rd place. Nice tame line there through the chicane. Going to lose a little bit of time up the hill. We'll see if he can get it back going into Hillsop. If not, we'll hop over and watch Andrew Warden's lap because he is finding the time to gain a couple positions here if he stays on the pace he's at. Francisco Vasquez also on quite the lap, 2nd up in the Delta. Here comes Andrew Warden down into Hillsop. Little loose on corner entry. Can he get it back by the exit? He does. See if he can get the power down on the exit up the hill. Loses a little bit of time. Gets it back. Fantastic exit there, as shown by the Delta. Now on pace to set fastest lap of the session. We'll see if he can hang on to it. 2 corners to go. Nice and tidy. Finds even more time. Almost 3/4 of a second in the Delta. He's going to cross the line with that improvement to grab 1st place with a 135.5. 2 tenths up on Jeff Spangler, who now has his work cut out for him to get 1st back. Melon Pitch feeling pretty good still on podium. Let's take a look. Oh, right as I click on his name, Francisco Vasquez does cross the line with almost a 1 second improvement to move him up into 10th place. We've also got Brandon Mansell on quite the lap here. Half a second in the Delta, loses it around turn 3, but plenty of lap left to try and get that time. Let's go ahead and look at Francisco Vasquez again. Currently with a 137.7, 3/10 in the Delta right now coming into this corner.
And Warden, well, right up until I opened my mouth, he was up in the Delta once again. So we expected he might do something like this.
Classic commentator's curse coming out, striking Warden. Andre Lloyd right now, almost 8/10 in the Delta, loses a little bit of it at the exit of the chicane. Now has some traffic in front of him. He's going to have to try and get around to stay on this lap. Let's see what he does with it. We'll go ahead and throw the onboard here. Watch this driver work his way up the hill, up into Druids. Now a half second in the Delta.
With 30 seconds of the session remaining, Kriegs has got to cross to start another lap. So, okay, once again, as I said that on my screen, I just saw him put it into the wall. So,
unfortunate. Does look like Andre Lloyd's going to hang on to this lap, so will Francisco Vasquez right in front of him. And does grab the improvement, not enough for a position gained, but a solid qualifying session nonetheless. Let's take a look over at Andrew Warden here, who is fighting for hundredths of a second right now with Jeff Spangler trying to do the same. Overcooks it into that corner. He is going to lose that lap time, but gets it back somehow by the exit, gets the power down. We'll keep an eye on Jeff right over here as well. Jeff finding a little bit more time there.
Oh, yeah.
Andrew does too. Oh, and it looks like Jeff has invalidated that lap. Yep, and he's going to go ahead and drive it in. Now it's just down to Warden to see if he can hang on to that lap time.
I'm really surprised that bundle of tires lasted as long as it did.
Yeah, no kidding. Who's Warden going to be able to do it? Oh, 3 100s. Come on, find it. Find it. Get that 100th improvement. I want to see it. Oh, he gets a little bit loose there on the exit. He's going to get a practice pit stop in on his way into the pits. And that is going to do it for qualifying here. Go ahead and mute the capture card. There we go. And that's going to be qualifying over. Any second here. Nobody's on the track. There it goes. Wait, what? What did it do? Did it go to another qualifying session? What just happened? There we go.
We are.
Oh, classic, and we're stuck in the menu again. All right, so here's our timetables. Let's go ahead and let me just go ahead and put this away for a moment. We will get there, I promise. There we go. All right, now that that's hidden, we can see what our starting grid is going to look like. It's going to be Andrew Warden in first place, Jeff Spangler in second, and Melon Pitch in third to round out the top three. Shu Chen in fourth, Craig Bray in fifth, Andre Alfonso in sixth, Max Sunkenlap in seventh, Felix Palant in eighth, Andre Lloyd in ninth, and Francisco Vasquez to round out the top 10. In 11th, we have Ricky Scott, 12th, Brandon Mansell, 13th, Paul Valenstein, and Timmy Wilkins in 14th place. How are we feeling about predictions today?
Not too sure. I mean, I honestly don't know. I think Brandon Mansell is a newcomer to the league, so not too sure what to expect there. Mac is very fast on his day, so might see some movement there. Yeah, we're gonna have to see what happens in the first couple turns because
for sure,
I don't think this race is gonna be a hold back and see type race at the beginning.
I like the prediction from chat. from JA Games, a Lambo will win. There's a reasonable shot that we will see that happen today. Of that, I can assure you. But
I mean, if that wasn't the case, I'd be worried.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. And just taking a look at these qualifying times, folks, again, yes, we have some very, very fast drivers really in the top 4 with Melon Pitch and Shu Chen essentially being on top of each other with just a couple of hundredths of a second dividing them. However, we look all the way down to about 9th place, really 10th place. We've got almost the entire grid within a second of each other. So despite the fact we have some very, very fast cars up front, we should get to see some close racing in the middle of the pack. At least that is what I am hoping to see. We'll see if that's actually reality. You never know. Race day can throw a whole bunch of variables at us. It is a warm day here at Oulton Park right now. 30 degrees on the track, 23 in the atmosphere. Looking like we're going to have some clear weather, unlike some previous Apollo Racing Club races of late. And while we've got a second, let's go ahead and take a track walk. We do have some custom liveries. It is a summer season, so not quite as many drivers, but still we see the Apollo Racing Club mods rocking that camo livery with mods plastered on the side. Not the same as the regular built-in camo livery, so not to be confused with those. We actually got a couple of lookalikes here. But with that, we are going to start our parade lap here at Oulton Park and start to get this race underway. Checking a couple of things before we get this race started. Just make sure we can keep the stream running. But for right now, let's just enjoy these pretty Lamborghinis working their way around Oulton Park in some wonderful weather for a drive today. Should lead to an exciting race, to be sure. Let's do Helicam. And look at the middle of the pack. Come on. Actually, the cars are already pretty spaced out. No, I wasn't expecting that. But I can also put this back. There we go. Look at all those Lamborghinis.
Without realizing. But obviously just everyone trying to get a little bit of heat into the tires on the warm-up lap.
Yeah, that's important to mention, actually. So these Lamborghinis, even though they drive on the same tires as the GT3s, they actually don't get tire blankets when they leave the pits. So they start on cold tires, and they got to get these things heated up. There's not a very long track, Oulton Park, so not a lot of time for them to do that. I would expect most of these drivers just to be dragging their brakes all the way around, at least in my experience. On Thursday night, that seemed to do it in the Cup car. We'll see what the drivers do here in the Lamborghinis. But about halfway around.
I think that's the only way to go, really, is just drag the brakes as much as possible and see if you can radiate a bit of heat into the tires. You see some weaving going on on the back straight there.
It really is just anything you can do to try and get some extra heat into those tires, because once we start, they need to be at temperature or you're driving slow. So it is definitely a tricky balancing act, for sure. But any moment now, we'll see these drivers start lining up double file, and we're going to get this race underway. And there they are, double file. We just got a couple of corners to go, and then this race will be on. But as we get ready to round these last two corners before we start the race, I want to say a big thank you to everybody in chat that is watching this. If anybody's watching the VOD as well, thanks for tuning in. Massive thank you to Apollo Racing Club for having us here to watch this race. And we are about to start this. We'll have the green light any second, and then this madness will be on. Here we go. Now it becomes a drag race down into T1. We're going to go ahead and throw the Helicam up on the PMP just so we can watch the middle of the field. Andrew Warden gets a clean break through turn 1. Looks like Jeff Spangler gets around chute 10 to secure a position. We got cars off wide. We've got cars spun around sideways. Looks like Paul Valenstein is wrapped up in it. Brandon Mansell going back around the track now. A little bit of action. Doesn't look like it cost anybody too terribly much. I think everybody is back around and on the track, and it looks like the damage was minimal. But T1 incident, I'm sure the stewards will be having fun reviewing that at the end of the race. But this race is on. Now we're into the chicane. We got Xu Chen getting very close there to Andrew Warden. What should be a very exciting battle for first if he's able to get the race pace down to catch him. We've got another caution flag being waved for Max Sunkenlap and Andre Alfonso. I think they just got a little too close to each other there in the hairpin, and that's going to push Max Sunkenlap off wide, waiting for his chance to get back on the track. But here is our battle for third. Actually, most of the grid still very packed on top of one another.
Looks like Mac is headed into the pits, unfortunately. I think he came into contact with the wall on the right-hand side and then was pinged back across the circuit, but not 100% sure there.
Not 100% sure there either. He is in the pits, and having teleported that way, he will have his controls locked for a little bit to simulate the car getting towed back to pits. We'll see if he gets back on the track to join for the rest of the race. But right now, the battle is on for first place. Andrew Warden growing a bit of a gap to Xu Chen, not much of one. And Jeff Spangler trying to track down Xu Chen as well. But that is one lap done here at Oulton Park. Only 2 minutes into the race, and we are at full speed here. Tires will be up to temperature, and we're going to start to see some real pace come out of these cars as this race starts going. We've also got a very close battle. We actually just missed a pass from Felix Palant there on Andre Lloyd. Gets him in turn 4, it looks like. And the split just hasn't quite updated for us yet. He is much closer than 20 seconds. Not sure what was going on there, but coming around that corner now into the hairpin. Max Sunkenlap still in the pits. Let's take a look at this battle up toward... Actually, it's a little closer back here, so we're going to hang out with the middle of the pack right now. Andre Lloyd going to be the car behind. We actually got two identical cars racing. Are they... Oh, it's because they're teammates. They're sister cars. That makes sense.
I can confirm that Mac did receive a... well, he was rear-ended and received a fair bit of damage from that, unfortunately. So, very tough start.
That is a tough start to be sure, and unfortunately doesn't get it in during the pit window, so he will also have a pit stop to serve later. This will not count towards that, unfortunately. Let's go ahead and add that one mandatory pit there to our display, and I can also make it, there we go, new fastest lap, 136.2 out of Andrew Warden, and a 136.1 out of Jeff Spangler immediately to answer that. Let's get our racing gaps up there. There we go. And that's a nice pass there by, I believe that is Ricky Scott on Tim Wilkins. If he can hold the outside line, he is out in front of him. And we've got a close race out in front of him, too. Yeah, that was an excellent pass there on the outside. That is a tough line to hold.
Does look like Tim is thinking about trying to get back past.
As you can see, just in front of us, also got a very close race between Brandon Manzella and Francisco Vasquez. Let's go ahead and take a look at that coming into this hairpin. Doing almost 120 miles an hour over that little kink there we saw in the road. And does make the pass happen. It's going to be another position gain for Francisco Vasquez. Up 2 positions so far, just a few laps into this race. Let's go ahead and take a look at Andrew Warden and Xu Chen getting very close here. And still, I would argue, a battle for first place between Andrew Warden, Xu Chen, and Jeff Spangler. A little bit of a gap between all of them, but certainly not too much that none of them can overcome it with almost 55 minutes still remaining. But we've got an even closer gap here now between Brandon Mansell and Ricky Scott here. We'll see if Ricky Scott is going to go for another outside pass. Looks like he wanted to. No room to make it happen there, and it's going to proceed now down into the last 2 corners of the track. He's getting very, very close to that Lamborghini he's chasing down. This is going to be for 9th place if he can get it. On the inside, can he get the power down early enough? He'll have the outside line going into the final corner. And it does look like he's out in front of that other Lamborghini, and that is another pass for Ricky Scott. Moves himself up into 9th place. Excellent driving.
Ricky is the car, well, has the car with the pace at the moment. Can't remember exactly where he was on the grid or if he didn't get the qualifying lap that he wanted, but it's it's exciting for us to see him make his way through.
For sure. Started in P11, now in P9, up 2 positions on the day.
Go.
Also got a little bit of action here between Tim Wilkins and Andre Alfonso coming into the hairpin now. I need to pop out the chat so I can actually watch y'all talking to me. Got a couple of shout outs here. So we've got a Let's Go Bubba from Niall Drake. How you doing, Niall? Good to see you in the chat. Sorry to not see you out on track. And then we got an update from the chat on the Max situation as well. Just says Mac went flying into a wall. A little late on my part, but we got it. Thank you very much, chat. Better at my job than I am. Don't shout out Niall, the controller legend himself. I've got to. It's my responsibility.
Just trying to get a look at the front of Andre's Lamborghini, of course, and I think he may have been the one who ran into the back of Mac there. He is carrying a little bit of damage.
Okay. We'll take a look at that here in just a second.
It doesn't seem to be hurting him too much.
We've got a battle between Jeff Spangler and Xu Chen heating up here now, battling out for second place. Half second separates these two cars. Let's go ahead and hop on board with the man here. We got Jeff Spangler's helmet view on the picture-in-picture there. Let's actually make sure we can hear it. That's the sound from inside that Lamborghini. You can hear that engine roaring coming down the straight now around the corner.
These are nice sounding cars, that real sawtooth sound.
It's aggressive and high revving, and a mistake out of Xu Chen there allows Jeff Spangler to pass, moving him up into second place. We'll see if Xu's able to chase him down. Put that away. A new fastest lap out of Andrew Warden, a 1:35.9. Now getting close to his qualifying pace here during the race, because he is a madman and he's too good at driving.
I think he's just getting back up to speed, to be honest.
Yeah, to be completely honest.
It does happen sometimes if you haven't had time to do the necessary practice, that throughout quali and throughout the race you actually find a bit more pace. So yeah, it's possible that's what we're seeing right now.
That is frequently the case with my races. Is that I'm slow during qualifying and I find all of my pace during the race once my tires are dead. All right, we got Melon Pitts catching up to the gap as well. Now 1.2 seconds separating him and third place.
Andre also, I think he just made it.
He sure did. Let's go ahead. We're gonna watch that replay here. Oh, so it looks like Manziel goes a little bit wide on the hairpin, and Alfonso is able to just kind of scoot his way around the inside of that line and makes the pass happen. Now into the next chicane. Looks like he's going to continue to grow that gap. Let's see if he can make it wider as he gets the escape here from Hillsop's chicane up into Druids. It does look like, yeah, he's going to continue to grow that gap. Another fastest lap out of Andrew Warden. Let's see. He shaved. No, that was. Hold on. What was his last lap time? I can actually look at that this time. Where is it? Not live speed. No. We want last 3 laps. Let's see. So he improved that lap time by 4/100ths of a second is what he just did there. Somehow still manages to find the time. Actually, let's leave that last 3 laps up. I like that display. That's a good one. Let's see, Shu Chen is going to be on the defense here pretty soon. That is going, or actually, excuse me, that's Jeff Spangler who's going to be on the defense. He is catching, or Shu Chen is catching him, coming into the first chicane.
I'd say a couple of the movers at the moment are still Ricky Scott and Andre Afonso. Ricky has the gap in front of him down to just about a second to Vasquez.
Yep, still 2 positions up on the day. Very strong performance so far, although a certain amount of that is going to be due to that turn 1 incident. Looks like a couple of the faster drivers were knocked down a few positions because of that. One of them being Andre Alfonso, currently started in P6, now in P10. But yeah, Ricky Scott going to be the driver to watch here as he is tracking down Francisco Vasquez, who had a very good qualifying time. But right now they're actually in the same order they started the race in, these 2 drivers, just up a couple of positions from where they started the race in. We'll see what order they finish in. 12 minutes have elapsed here at Oulton Park, 7 laps down. We've already seen a lot of movement here on the standings here. We're watching Ricky Scott here trying to get another position to make it 3 positions on the day to get around Francisco Vasquez. Wide exit there from Francisco, overcooks it a little bit into turn 1, is going to let Ricky get that much closer here. Now coming around turn 3. And for perspective, they're doing that at almost 110 miles an hour coming around that corner. Next one will be almost 140.
And with Ricky pushing in this early phase of the race, the track temperature is 30 degrees. Is tire degradation anything to be worried about with these cars, or are they pretty good to go?
So they are on the
right
GT3 tires, but these STs are pretty aggressive, both the acceleration and the braking. So we will see that they're wearing out, and with the additional heat on the track, we may see some minor overheating, but I don't think it's warm enough to where we're going to see too much of a problem with performance degradation, so much as we're just going to see these tires wearing out a little faster than usual. But there's a mandatory tire change in the pit stop, and everybody's going to have to do it anyways, so I wouldn't be too concerned about tire life here. I would just be basically treating it like 2 sprints and pushing these tires as hard as I can. Got a Ricky Scott fangirl in the chat from Dank Roma. Get a shout out there. Sure, he will be happy to receive the good vibes there. Ricky's doing quite a good job here if you missed it. Currently up 2 positions from the start. Looking to get 3 if he can get around Francisco Vasquez right in front of him. Looks like a couple of rough corners has grown that gap a little bit, but we've seen he's able to close it back up. We'll see if he's able to do so. Right now, this is the tightest race for position on the field. We're going to be watching these 2 for a little bit unless something crazy happens. Another update on the battle for second. Shu Chen is a 1.5 seconds away from Jeff Spangler. And it does look like it's closing. Just a minute ago, it was 1.7. We'll see if that continues to shrink. We might take a look at that battle here in a second. But for right now, it is between Ricky Scott and Francisco Vasquez for, let's see, that's going to be for 8th place. Now I'm really just watching the sector times here to see where Ricky is faster. That was a rough exit to that chicane. Loses a little bit of time down the straight, but actually, no, excuse me. Looks like he's gaining some time on the straight. The gap between Jeff and Shu is expanding a little bit now from 1.5 seconds now up to 2.
Keeping an eye on the weather forecast at the moment, but it doesn't look like it's going to be changing. and unfortunately for us, no surprises. Just sun and a bit of cloud. So, although it does look on screen like it's a kind of overcast, I don't expect to see anything. And that was Mansell was just off track briefly, and I think that's going to give Wallenstein an opportunity to take a crack at him down in 12th and 13th places.
depending on the line he chooses. He may have a shot here in the first corner. Goes outside using all of the track there. An excellent line from Paul, and you can see, oh, he has to get on the brakes and almost spins the car so as to avoid a collision with that Lamborghini out in front. Did not take that corner as well as Paul. Is going to have to work to get that gap smaller again and put himself in striking position. Woo, barely keeps the car on the track there. And now they're going to charge up into the hairpin to see if he can continue to gain time. It's the second now. Continuing to shrink the gap little by little.
Nice little jink left and jink right. That tight chicane is one of those just, well, oddly satisfying. I would just call it satisfying.
Yep.
Sections of track to drive.
Especially when you get it right. It just feels so good. Second gap now, so the gap is growing a little bit. Looks like Brandon may have the pace through that middle sector there, and off screen, not sure what happened. Looks like a mistake out of Francisco Vasquez, and is going to allow two cars to pass. Both Andre Afonso and Ricky Scott get around. Let's see what happened there. We're going to chance it here. Actually, I'm going to try and queue up a replay and do this the right way. We're going to keep an eye on this battle here now. Francisco Vasquez chasing down Andre Afonso. We'll see if he's able to get it while I queue up this replay, see what happened to Francisco there. I keep wanting to say Francisco, and I'm not sure why. I'm pretty sure it's just my American showing.
It's an incredibly short lap around here as well. It feels like you blink and they're back on the main straight, but Paul is just sitting in behind Brandon at the moment, still keeping it within about a half a second there, so he's going to be ready to pounce if Brandon does anything untoward.
That's a good way of putting it.
And sometimes that's the way, you know. You can if you try too hard to make the move, sometimes it only leads to more mistakes. If you aren't in a major hurry, if you let the race come to you, then it can work out. Just putting pressure, keeping and maintaining pressure on the driver ahead. Although, as I say that, it looks like Paul himself is just drifted out wide a little bit on that turn, so.
Almost have the replay ready. Oh, we got another. Okay, let's see in the chat. Ricky gained a bunch of spots last night. Get ready for a repeat. His biceps are huge too. He could tell you. I'll be asking him about that after the race, to be sure. If anything, just to embarrass him a little.
Oh, we just saw Brandon indeed go wide there, so that's let Paul through.
Yep. And here we've got the replay of what happened earlier in the race. We just missed in the picture-in-picture here. This is Francisco Vasquez. Overcooks it into the second-to-last corner, runs out wide onto the gravel, and that is what is going to allow Ricky Scott to make a pretty easy pass on the inside, followed by Andre Afonso. And that is what happened over there.
It's a nice clean rejoin that he made.
For sure.
So, very well behaved.
Yep. Like to see the safe rejoins. Keeps the race going for everybody a little bit longer, and you tend to get yelled at and banned a little bit less. So hats off for the clean racing there. Let's take a look at this way. You cannot keep him off camera. Francisco Vasquez trying to get Ricky Scott again.
Yeah, he's bouncing back.
May have just
There's
been
not
just
a
enough
lot
of
of
an
places
unfortunate
you
mistake.
can get a big toe.
No, it's difficult to get a toe on a straight. It's also not easy to pass on this track. You really got to fight for every inch, and that's what we're seeing these drivers doing. When you can see those cars getting loose coming around these corners, is because they are pushing that hard just to get as much performance out of the car as they can to try and make those passes happen. And right now, these three cars doing an excellent job of keeping things tight and tidy. We'll see if they're able to keep it up. Right now, 12 laps down here at Oulton Park. Any second now, we should be getting there. It is. Pit window is going to open, and now the drivers are allowed to get in there and try and serve those mandatory pit stops, get those tires changed out whenever they please.
And I wouldn't say that Warden is really running away with it at the front. Jeff is still within two seconds almost. I don't think it's a done deal up front.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, it's what is it, a 2-second gap right now? Yeah. And you know, that's one mistake. I mean, when we're talking about the top drivers here, so we're looking at these top 3, all very fast and consistently very fast. All it takes is one mistake from one of the drivers to make a position change and potentially lose first place. So I'm sure the pressure is on Warden, and I am also sure that I don't need to be the one explaining that to him. So, but yeah, we're still watching this battle between Ricky Scott and Andre Alfonso. We saw it got very, very close there, but Alfonso gets a better exit away from the chicane and is going to grow that gap to Ricky Scott behind. In the chat, these are awesome to watch. That's why I'm here. I love it. It's too much fun. But you were saying, oh, Paul Valentin in the pits, on his way out right now. Actually,
first of the pitters. So going for the early pit there. That's the pit window is just open. So I don't know if he felt as though if he had a little bit of damage, something that he wanted to get out of the way, or if he just preferred an earlier tire change to then run a long stint for the remainder of the race.
Hey, you know, it could be either. I'm not 100% sure on how to read this, but it looks like the car was stopped for 41 seconds. So that's an additional 11 seconds on the standard tire change. So it could be that he was fixing some aero damage. Might be too soon to tell. Not sure what happened, but Ricky... Oh, wait, no. Ricky Scott was chasing down Andre Alfonso. I thought he gained a position, but no, he's still trying to chase him down a little bit. That gap is growing now up to 2 seconds. Now Andre Alfonso, I believe, now he's chasing down. That's Andre Lloyd. Andre Alfonso, now 2 positions down on the day, has regained quite a few. I believe he was down 4 at the start of the race after a turn 1 incident, and is working to get those positions back, doing an excellent job of making his way up the field and doing so safely.
And some people say that it's very difficult to pass at this track, and whilst that is true, I feel like that's being disproved today as well. Like we've seen quite a lot of passing going on.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. Typically, this is a very, very difficult track to pass at. The driver's doing an excellent job of making it look easy right now. Francisco Vasquez and Ricky Scott getting into it again. Now just 0.3 of a second separating these 2 drivers. They get very close there. And there is the onboard from Francisco Vasquez, the chasing car here. That's going to be the white Lamborghini on the main screen. Oh, gets very close, and there's contact between the 2 of them. Little too fast into that hairpin is going to put him into the back of Ricky Scott.
Ricky did very, very well to hold on to that just there and not have that be a much worse spin than it was. It wasn't really a spin there. He made it about 45 degrees and then got it pointed back the right way.
No, that was an excellent catch there from Ricky Scott. When the back of these cars get bumped like that, it is very, very easy to just let them spin the rest of the way around. Good demonstration there of car control and getting right back on top of it, because he is already trying to get back around Francisco Vasquez, getting that gap down to a second now. We'll see if he continues to shrink that down. He's made the pass happen a couple times already this race. We'll see if he can do it again.
Vasquez definitely went for a gap that wasn't there, but the race is still on between these 2, so that's all that matters.
Yeah, it looked like that was a mistake out of Vasquez, but Scott keeps it nice and tidy there. Opts for the safer, not try to pass on the mistake idea and keep himself in the race a little longer. Now to chase him down for the rest of this lap here. The battle between Andre Lloyd and Andre Alfonso also getting very, very close. 7/10 of a second separating those two. Let's go ahead and take a look at that battle up here, coming into the chicane. Ooh!
Tim Wilkins has a yellow, but
White flag, yeah, just running a little slow somewhere. May have just gotten, a little loose and lost the back
rolling.
end. You see these two Lamborghinis still very close, coming out on the outside of Hillstop. We see the dive to the outside, try to get the power down a little bit early for the chasing Lamborghini. It is going to work. Andre Alfonso gaining on him a little bit. Now 3/10 of a second separating them. Now coming around up into Druids. I think. Let me double check that. Pretty sure that's Druids that we just looked at. It was. I did my job. Ooh, and that's going to be into the pits for Andre Lloyd, going to allow Alfonso to make the pass. Maybe an undercut attempt there from Andre Lloyd.
It's a very, very good Andre on Andre action we've got there.
100%. And you'll love to see it. Okay, I'm going to watch the pit timer this time to see if I can try and understand how this works.
Ricky Scott also in the pits. I would suspect he's going to want to try and repair some of the damage that he had even prior to the incident that we just saw. But there are times where you see maybe it's going to be an extra 15, 20 seconds in the pit, and you try to just run with it.
Yep, I'm watching right now. I'm watching Andre Lloyd in the pits right now to see when he starts moving. Just came off the jacks. He's moving. And out of the pits is going to let him out into 11th place. And I did read that right the first time. So it's the way I'm seeing it. So I've got their time lost just from driving as well as the time they spent on the jacks. So it was 19 seconds for Andre Lloyd, and then on the jacks for almost 40. So repairing some damage. Looks like Ricky Scott will have done the same. We'll take a look at the passenger side of his car. That's where the damage was. Still looks a little scraped up, but...
Yeah. I think he might have kept the damage.
I think he may have as well. He's going to let Mellon pitch there around.
Because he was off the jack pretty quick.
Yeah, it says 38.3, and then Andre Lloyd's was 38.5, so I'm wondering if there's some float time in there, because that's pretty close to exactly 30 seconds for both drivers. At least identical times, and I don't imagine they both repaired damage, so we'll reach out to the developers and ask how to read that number.
Okay. Yeah, all of these drivers coming out of the pits now, including Xu Chen, just made his mandatory pit stop. They're going to be on reasonably chilly tires. It won't be up to pressure just yet, but for Ricky, he would do well to just kind of tag in behind Mellon pitch and use Mellon as a carrot. Can I say that?
Yeah, no, that's kind of what I would do, to be honest. Get linked up behind a faster driver, steal their line a little bit, plagiarize even.
Payan has now been in and out of the pits as well, so definitely as we hit the mid-race distance, everyone's starting to come in and take their mandatory stops, so a little bit of a shake-up.
Yep, watching Xu Chen right now try to get around Francisco Vazquez. I think he's just going to let him pass. That is what happened there. That's probably the smart decision. That's what I would do personally.
Yeah, Vazquez is not obliged to let Xu Chen past, but I think it benefits both of them.
Yeah, as is frequently my experience, whenever I try and defend against a faster driver, both of us just end up losing time. Now, if it's close, you fight tooth and nail, but we're talking about the guy who qualified second here. Excuse me, no, he qualified fourth, but he was very fast. He was just off of pole, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and we've seen Xu Chen up at the sharp end before. He's rapid, to say the least.
That's a good way of putting it. We've also got Felix Pallant closing up on Brandon Mansell. And that is also going to be another interesting pass because Brandon has yet to serve a pit stop.
The gap at the front is still holding steady at 2 seconds, just metronomic.
Yeah, both drivers very, very consistent. So let's take a look. Down in the bottom right hand of your screen, folks, you'll see their last, let's do last 3 laps because they both haven't done 15, it doesn't look like yet. No, they have, it just didn't work anyways. But there's our last 3 laps for Andrew Warden. Pretty much identical to Jeff Spangler's over here. So they're lap for lap, almost second for second, the same on the lap times there. But let's take a look back over at Felix Pallant right as he's getting around Brandon Mansell. Let's go ahead and just, while it's close, let's just take a look at that one more time. The cameraman got confused and we missed it a second time anyways, but he makes a pass on the inside. Looks like Brandon Mansell goes a little bit wide into that hairpin and allows for an easy pass for Felix there up the inside.
Yeah, and once again, Felix has made his mandatory stop, so... Oh, as Brandon, I think he overshot the chicane just there.
Yep, a little bit. We can see him taking the runoff.
The polystyrene. Just looking to see who else hasn't pitted. Vasquez off track for a brief moment now.
So let's see, remaining pit stops. So we got Vasquez and Wilkins still have position or pit stops to serve, and then from first place back, we've got Warden, Spangler, Pitch, Bray, and Afonso all have pit stops to serve as well. Let's see, there goes Andrew Warden into the pits right now, followed immediately by Jeff Spangler. This is going to be interesting. And then actually right behind him, that looked like, wait, who was that? It wasn't Kriegs. Kriegs off track. Who was it that went in after them? I didn't catch that. Was it well, Brandon Mansell's in there, but that's not who I was talking about. Andrew Warden, Jeff Spangler. Interesting. I don't know. I thought I saw a third car go in there. Oh, well. But that does mean right now Mellon Pitch out in first place. We'll see if having some clear air out in front of him might help him get some lap times down, potentially move himself up. Right now, his last lap there, 136.9, not far off from the last lap there from Andrew Warden. But looks like Andrew Warden making his way back out. Jeff Spangler right behind him, but it looks like another car got out just in... Oh, no. Brandon does let him pass, so that is going to be Jeff Spangler out there in P4. Looks like there's going to be some traffic behind him. It's going to be Xu Chen. That pit stop was almost enough for Xu Chen to catch back up to him. Now, Brandon, I would recommend, getting out of the way there. Maybe not that much, but thank you.
You have to wonder just how long it's going to take Jeff and Andrew to get up to speed with Xu Chen. He's on already warm tires, so it could be that this lap he's able to close in just a little bit more. Although the undercut didn't work for him completely, it's helped him close the gap a fair bit.
Yeah, and it really is. This is a strategy decision here. We'll see if those warmer tires help him at least close up enough to where he can get the driver out in front. Right now, it's going to be Jeff Spangler on the defense, thinking about Xu Chen and a little less about warming his tires up, and can capitalize on the fact that he did go for that undercut. Didn't necessarily get him a position gained, but might be enough for him to get into contention for second with Jeff Spangler here out in front. And we see a stop and go 30 is going to get handed out. That's going to go to... looks like it goes to Francisco Vasquez. Stop and go 30. Did he just serve a pit stop? Where is he on the track?
Yeah, he just came out of the pit, so I'll have a look back and see
speeding in pit lane,
where that came from. Yeah, whether it was on entry or exit.
It hands it out to at the exit regardless. But that is going to be a costly penalty there for him. Let's see. Mellon Pitch and Afonso into the pit stops. So we see Andrew Warden back out in front. Ooh. Jeff Spangler getting all sorts of unruly there, and now they are side by side, and there's contact between him and Xu Chen. You see Xu Chen really having to fight to keep control of that Lamborghini as it gets squirrely there. but it looks like both drivers able to get back on the track relatively drama-free with a position gained for Xu Chen there, and I'll get the replay queued up here over on the other screen here because I want to see what happened. Ooh, but also of interest here, and I want to throw the... Oh, right as I say that, the gap grew back out, so let's just focus on the replay here.
Oh, I know what happened there. Just looking back at Vasquez's pit exit, he shifted up into second and into third gear as he was trying to control the wheel spin, leaving his box. So that unfortunately will have disabled the pit limiter, and once again, been there, done that.
Yep.
So Jeff Spangler into the wall.
Yep. Ooh, that's unfortunate. I think, and that might be those cold tires coming and playing with his head a little bit, because he's got to remember Xu Chen's on warm tires. Even on lap 2 here, these Lamborghinis are not quite up at operating pressures here. And that may have been enough to cause that spin, just trying to keep up with Xu Chen, getting a little bit aggressive with that right foot, and that might have been what put him in the wall. But over here on this other screen here, we've got what happened between him and Xu Chen just a couple of corners ago. We're going to go throw that up right now. Here we go. This is coming around second to last corner. We can see that Jeff gets a little bit wide out there on the dirt. That's going to allow Xu Chen to close up to him and get side by side coming around the second to last corner here. And Xu Chen just snags that inside line and makes the power stick. Now he's out in front of him coming around the final bend. Inside line gets them side by side again. Now down into turn 1. Xu Chen out in front. They get very close running side by side in turn 1, but taking that outside line gets him a little bit loose. And then we see here they just get a little confused on who needs to be on the inside there. A little bit of a tap gets both cars unstable, and it is going to put Jeff out into the dirt to allow that pass to happen.
Some Lamborghini magnetism going on there. They just gravitated towards one another, and unfortunately it pinged them both out towards the edges of the circuit. But
and that's racing.
I don't know if anyone hasn't seen the two Vantor brothers getting together and at the Nürburgring 24 Hours. It kind of reminiscent of that. They were able to go side by side for a good while, but even though Xu Chen and Jeff Spangler are both very, very good drivers, clearly it's that you can only be side by side for so long before
something catastrophic happens.
Something happens.
Yeah, and it's got nothing to do with either driver's ability. Clearly, they're both very fast, but when you're both very fast and competitive and get two cars alongside, you're absolutely right. It is just a matter of time until that recipe for disaster is finished cooking. And we see it in professional motorsports as well, all the time.
Indeed.
I mean, F1 drivers, we know we like to joke about them, especially Ferrari a couple of years ago, taking each other out. And not really. Driver ability is not something I can put in question as a not race car driver. Like, those guys clearly are the best in the world. There's a reason why they're driving for an F1 team, and they still hit each other all the time. It just happens. All right, now not a lot of close battles for position. All of our pit stops are finished. We see, oh, there goes a driver disconnect there. I believe that was Francisco Vasquez DCing after retiring the race, rather, after that stop and go 30. Just didn't seem worth getting back out on the track, because that is going to be their race over. 23 laps here at Oulton Park, 2 cars down, 21 minutes to go. And really, it's starting to look like this might be where these cars finish. I'll be keeping an eye on the gaps here right now, the closest one being between Andre Afonso and Felix Palant here for 6th place.
I was getting quite a large split between Andrew Warden and Xu Chen, but on screen it doesn't look like a huge gap. Perhaps just my eyes deceiving me.
It says it's 7 seconds.
We'll see what it gives us when they come across the line here.
Oh, that's because that's not Xu Chen behind him. That's Tim Wilkins in the black and gold Lamborghini.
I see.
It just looks very similar to the gray and orange Lamborghini of Xu Chen there in 2nd place. So no, that is a 7-second gap there. So Andrew Warden does seem to still have some pace here. His last lap, 137. His best lap, a 135. Pit windows closed. Everybody's finished with their mandatory pit stops for the race. That does mean that is the 20-minute call there. 2/3 of the way into this race, still anybody's race, really, but it is looking most like Andrew Warden's race now. 7.2 seconds, 7.5 seconds to the next car in contention. Next closest gap is actually going to be between Jeff Spangler and Melon Pitch with a 3-second gap here. But right now, we kind of just settle in and wait for the next battle to unfold. We'll click around and catch any incidents that we can.
Jeff does look like he's having quite a hard time keeping that car behaving in the way that he would like it to.
Mm-hmm.
With the bumps and the damage, it looks a little bit unruly, so I would speculate that he may drop a little bit of time to Melon Pitch, but
we'll
keep
see.
an eye on it.
Yeah, I'm watching it. The gap is getting a little smaller, but it seems to be fluctuating from turn to turn. Let's see. That lap out of Melon Pitch, that is going to be a 137.5. Let's see, what was Spangler's last? 136. So Melon Pitch a little faster there, I believe. Or 137 for Melon Pitch. Never mind, he was a second off. But somehow that gap is closing. And as he gets closer, we're getting even closer as well to the battle between Jeff Spangler and Xu Chen. Let's see, this Xu Chen closing up on, that is, excuse me, that's Tim Wilkins. A little bit of history about Oulton Park. It's actually got quite a bit of history. I'm scrolling through, been scrolling through. I started before the race, but I've been scrolling through the Wikipedia article for this track and just reading through some of the history. Evidently, as far back as 1944, it was actually used as staging grounds for the invasion of Normandy for the U.S. Army. Staged, it wasn't a racetrack at the time, but this is where they were staging troops for that. And it wasn't until the early 1950s until they actually started considering using it for recreational motorsport, started mapping out potential track layouts. And let's see, when was the very first race there? I believe it was 1954 was the first time they raced through it. Not the same circuit that we see today. And actually, as recently as the 1970s, and I know that's 50 years ago now, but they were racing F1 at this track during the 70s. This used to be an F1 track, which is just freaking crazy to me. Because I don't know how, I guess, well, they're very different F1 cars in the 70s, but, man, that must have been interesting to watch. Now we got Timmy Wilkins there trying to get, getting bullied a little bit by Jeff Spangler. We'll see if he can get around him incident-free.
Just watching Warden come up on some lap traffic at the moment. Be sure that nothing goes awry there, but it looks like he just made his way past Paul Valenstein quite well without incident. So
drama-free. You'll love to see it.
Drama-free, yeah. And yeah, in the league we do have a couple in jokes regarding using trees as braking markers here.
Trees, discolorations in the dirt, curbing, anything that's not a sign that can be knocked off of the track, that's what I'm using. I learned that lesson real early in my sim racing career. If you'd like to know which track it was Nürburgring, and the final chicane had the braking marker knocked out, and that was the end of my race because did not stop in time.
Not a good one.
Another interesting note on driver performance right now. Mellon Pitch, currently in 4th position, actually currently has the best potential lap time out of all of his purple sectors. Even faster than Andrew Warden, actually, by 0.4 of a second if he can get it down. He's got a 135.9 in the delta since his pit stop. We'll see if he's able to get it back down. Currently has the best first sector since the pit stops. We'll see him getting around Tim Wilkins here in that first chicane. Now up the hill, down the hill into the second chicane, the hilltop chicane.
And if he times it right, the draft from Tim might help him, but then might also get held up into this corner.
We'll see. Tim's usually pretty aware of who's trying to get around him. If it's somebody faster, he tends to be pretty compliant as a blue flag, which is my style. I don't like to get in the way of somebody trying to catch up to someone. We'll see what happens here, though. Again, he's not necessarily under any obligation to let Mellon Pitch pass here. It's not the same blue flag rules as F1. He's going to go for the pass on the inside and runs out of room. Got on the brakes in time, though, to avoid a collision. Looks like Tim ran a little bit wide there to try and facilitate that pass. Mellon Pitch does get around him. And now Jeff Spangler getting ever so close to Shu Chen here, now within 2 seconds here. We can see that orange number there on the right-hand side of the screen is what got my attention. Ooh. Paul Valenstein runs a little wide there off of turn 3. That's going to allow Shu Chen to get around him. Ooh, a little bit loose there. See the back end of that front Lamborghini stepping out just a little bit. Manages to get it stuck back down in the hairpin. A little wide there from Paul again. And now Timmy Wilkins Jeff Spangler going to be looking to try and get around him. Oh, it's a rough spot to catch a car. And yeah, Jeff has to take the road there, or the grass there, to try and get around him. That's just not a convenient spot to catch a car. There's not really a lot you can do there.
Not at all.
Got a yellow flag for Manzel. Let's see what's going on over there. It looks like he just ran off and got the car back on the track, drama-free. Whole lot of Lamborghinis up here in the Hollywood Hills. There's a whole lot of Lamborghinis over here in Cheshire, England. I'm watching 12 of them race around a racetrack. What are your Lamborghinis doing? That's it's a message in the chat from one of the drivers here. Wasn't able to make the race on a bit of a family vacation I'm very jealous of. Are you there for that that bachelor party that you and I know about, Goonmaster? I think that's something that hanging in my Lamborghini account. I want a Lamborghini account. How'd you get one of those? This gap between Jeff Spangler and Shu Chen is pretty much at a deadlock here. It's stayed between 1.7 and 2 seconds here for the last couple of laps. We'll see if he's able to start getting the pace down and try and make for a battle for second to finish out this race. Just 11.5 minutes remaining today. Not a lot of time left for Jeff to make moves.
This is around about the point in the race that I start to get just a bit fatigued. For some reason, the last 10 minutes are always the most difficult.
Yeah, and it really cannot be overstated enough just how taxing even sim racing is. You think about it, especially at the upper level of these drivers here. You know, they're putting down lap times that are comparable to real lap times from professional racing car drivers. Now, that's not to say necessarily they'd be able to do the same thing in a real Lamborghini, but it is pretty close. And they're doing this for an hour at a time with no breaks. And most of these guys are actually even more insane and frequently participate in longer endurance races where they could be at the wheel for as long as 3 hours with no real break. Maybe 30 seconds to roll through the pits to reset a stint timer, but that's about it. And yeah, you were right. About the 45-minute mark is where you start to really have that mental fatigue set in.
Yeah, it's not like driving long distance on the road. You can kind of relax your mind for the most part. Here, you got to maintain concentration. So when you're watching the guys at Le Mans doing triple and quad stints, you know, it's mighty impressive.
And just to give you an idea of just how much attention needs to be paid to these cars, I'm going to go ahead and throw up the onboard here of Xu Chen. Just watch his steering inputs, and you can see just how fine of control these drivers have to have of their cars. Specifically, just watch that steering wheel, and you will see just how hard he's having to fight to try and keep this car under control here. Here's a little wider of an angle of inside the car so we can see that steering wheel a bit better. We'll throw up that onboard audio as well. There we go.
Particularly the fast drivers, they're using absolutely as much of the track as possible all the time. So he's bringing it right out just past the white line there on entry, pushing it right the way onto the dirt basically on exit. So really opening up the corner and carrying as much speed as possible every single corner. And I was just distracted for a second there. Brandon unfortunately is in the pits, having just made contact with the wall. So
yeah, I see the pick.
Do hope he's able to get.
I think he'll be able to get it back out because I see the timer counting, and I didn't see that when Mac teleported back there early on in the race.
I think stopped online. So as Paul as well has had an incident at one of the chicanes. So
ooh.
This is what I was saying, you know, you can see the timer counting down, you feel as though you're getting towards the end of the race, and then these little mistakes start creeping in.
And we can see just how beat up that Lamborghini is. Wherever he put it into a wall, he went head on into it. We can see that hood is bent up. He will not have any of that aero in the front of the car after a collision like that. So he is really going to be fighting for grip here. Let's take a look back over at the battle between Xu Chen and Jeff Spangler. Now down to a 1.5 seconds. Looks like Jeff's been able to start putting that pace down. We'll see if he's able to catch it. Let's see, what was the last lap out of Xu Chen? Was a 1:36.7. Last lap out of Jeff Spangler was a 1:36.5. So the time is there. He's just got to keep putting it down lap after lap. Doesn't have a lot of time left to do it. 7.5 minutes to go. 31 laps into this race. We'll see if he's able to get it. He's maybe got another 3 or 4 laps here at Oulton Park to try and get second place away from Xu Chen, who is putting up a hell of a fight trying to hang on to that second place finish, which would be 2 positions up on the day for him after a rough qualifying session.
Yeah, that would be a good result for him for sure. You have to say, although it's nice to be in Jeff's position, chasing someone down, really pushing, that's something I personally enjoy. Xu Chen is in the enviable position of just being able to control that gap. Every time you see it sort of yo-yoing or rubber banding just a little bit. Each time he sees the gap coming down, he's able to just kind of maintain it.
I mean, and that's ultimately it. Is right now, we were just talking about the drivers really don't have any chances to relax. This is probably the closest that Xu Chen's going to be able to have a chance to relax, because even if Jeff does get close enough to where he's in striking distance, if Xu keeps the pace up that he's had this entire race, by the time Jeff catches him, there probably won't be time enough left for him to make a pass happen anyways. So right now, Xu's just got to focus on getting the car around the track consistently at the same speed that he's doing, not pushing as hard as he necessarily can, but really just fighting to keep that car on track. And he should hang on to second place. We'll see if he's able to do it. 6 minutes to go here. But while that's going on, I'll keep an eye on the gap. Let's take a look at some of the other drivers here. Right now, we've got Melon Pitch in 4th position, down a spot on the day after qualifying in P3. Will still be a very, very good finish for him. And that Apollo Racing Club Mods Lamborghini, one of the 2 on the track today. Actually, 3, because Timmy Wilkins, I think, is also driving one of them. Or not, I don't know. I know for sure Melon Pitch and Craig Bray are, and they're currently in P4 and 5.
Maybe I'm being hopeful here, but it does seem as though Andre is making a late push towards the back of Bray. only 5 minutes to bring that gap down. So I'm not sure it's. Oh, are those yellow flags there?
For Paul Valenstein, who is back in the pits.
He's in the pits, yeah. So, but it's not.
It may take a little bit for it to clear that yellow flag. I don't see where it's being called either. It's not like in Sector 1 or anything like that. It's weird.
It's not showing him as in the pits, but his car is in the pits.
Yeah.
It's an odd one.
We have a saying in the community, just Kunos things.
Just Kunos things, indeed.
Trying to get a little bit of everybody on camera here. Millen Pitch doing a good job of running his race. Down a position on the day, but still P4, very, very strong finish. But the gap between Shu Chen and Jeff Spangler has gotten smaller, now down to a 1.5 seconds, and kind of fluctuating between them.
And despite what I said before, obviously it only takes one mistake, and that gap will just disappear. So Shu Chen, I don't know if he was flashing there. I believe that when the flashes are used, it does actually flash the brake lights as well, or
maybe he could have also just been on the brakes, kind of at relatively the same rate as that. Man, look at how bumpy that Lamborghini is coming around that corner. But man, these drivers, their lap times are basically identical. Less than a 1/10 of a second separating their last lap times there. And the end of this race is rapidly approaching now. Just 2.5 minutes remaining. I'm sure any second here, Andrew Warden will be starting the final lap of the race. If not on this lap, then the next one. Almost certainly, no, 100% on the next one will be the final lap of the race. Pull up.
Oh. I am just watching Ricky Scott, and he is slowing significantly, although I don't know if that was just to yield to blue flags. I was concerned for a second about fuel. I think he might be fuel saving.
I'll grab the onboard over on my other computer and look at his gears. If he's short shifting,
Yeah,
then probably.
he is. Yeah, he's short shifting considerably. He's coasting a lot, so okay.
Yeah, he's fuel saving 100%. That is exactly what's happening.
It's 30 seconds back to Tim Wilkins, but so across the course of a couple laps, not impossible.
No, not impossible at all. And he at most has 2 more laps here. Yeah, look at it. He's just going to stop the car to let Millen pitch around there. I don't know that I would do that in a fuel saving. He's got to spend all of that gas accelerating again.
Because, and we've seen this in the past where someone will drop back behind the leader to save a lap, essentially.
Yep, and just as we're speak of the devil, final lap of the race, Andrew Warden just crosses the start-finish line to start the final lap of this race. The battle between Jeff Spangler and Shu Chen still going on. Oh, and Jeff goes a lot wide there. I was going to say a little wide, but that would have been dishonest. Runs it wide off that corner. Very easy to do. But I think this is going to be our finishing order for the race. We'll see if he's got any more tricks up his sleeve to make that 2.7 second gap a little smaller before the end of the lap. But I do believe that is going to be a P2 finish for Shu Chen, up 2 positions on the day. We'll see if he's able to hang on to it just for another lap here. Might be a tall order, you never know. Got a shout out in the chat. Yay, good to see him back on top again. Definitely a hard fought finish, for sure.
Yeah, I think Jeff has thrown everything, including the kitchen sink, at this, and it's admirable that he's really pushing on the last lap here. The gap is just increasing. Oh, it's down to 20 seconds now between Tim Wilkins and Ricky Scott, but I think Ricky's going to be home free at this point.
It's looking like it. He doesn't have much more track to go.
We can't actually see on the dash how much fuel he has in. He is shifting up now.
While you're talking about that, we do have our race leader finish the race, Andrew Warden in P1, followed by Shu Chen and Jeff Spangler in a very hard-fought P1 or 2 and 3 rather. Now Ricky Scott coming around the second to the final corner here to finish his race. Very, very strong drive from Ricky Scott here, up 2 positions on the day to finish in P9. I'm sure a finish he'll be very, very happy with. Craig Bray and Tim Wilkins getting ready to finish their laps as well. And that is going to be them finished in, let's see, that's P10 for Tim Wilkins and P5 for Craig Bray. Andre Lloyd coming around Hillsop Chicane, got a little bit more track to go. See, next car is going to be a teammate, Felix Palet. Finish in P7, up a position on the race. Strong finish for sure. That just leaves one car to get across the start-finish line. Timed that one perfectly to get his money's worth of that track time. And that will be an 8th place finish for Andre Lloyd when they get to the start-finish line to finish a position up on qualifying for a very, very strong finish for them as well. And there we go, folks. Yep, and we can see in the chat there, Ricky Scott almost ran out of gas. We caught it on stream. Friend did an excellent job of fuel saving to the end. Love to see it. But that is going to be another race down here at Apollo Racing Club at Oulton Park. A big congratulations to Andrew Warden for the first place finish there, as well as Shu Chen and Jeff Spangler to finish out our top 3 finishers. And that was an excellent race. Thomas, I don't know about you, but I enjoyed it from start to finish. Once again, our driver is doing an excellent job of keeping us entertained for the entirety of the race.
Yeah, never dull at Apollo, and thank you everybody for joining us to enjoy this race today at Oulton Park.
Thank you very much indeed. As always, I'm Matt McAdams. It's been a pleasure having all of you. Hope to catch you next week. Let me see where we are at. I should have that queued up. I was trying to queue that up, and then I got distracted. One moment, folks. Almost got it. Let's see. Next week. Ooh, it's going to be a good one. Next week, we are going to be in Italy at Imola. One of my favorite tracks in the game. A very, very dicey track, and one you have to drive really hard to be fast at. Will be exciting. Don't miss it. Folks, next week, same time, same channel. If you haven't already, go ahead and give us a follow. Turn those notifications on so you will get notified every time we have races going on. We've got races every night of the week streamed here at Apollo Racing Club, from GT3 to Cup Cars to GT4, all the way down to F3, if I remember correctly. We've got, no, it's an F4 league, excuse me, in iRacing. But yeah, all sorts of exciting motorsports is to catch. Thank you for joining us. We hope to see you next week. Y'all enjoy the rest of your Saturday night. Take care, everybody.